y'all, welcome back to my channel and thanks for stopping by. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Stephanie and today I have a very special video all about Santa and his reindeer. I also have a very special announcement to make that y'all are not going to want to miss coming up right after this first project. Let's go ahead and jump right into DIY number 1. For this project, I started with a burlap Christmas drawstring gift bag that I picked up for 50% off at Hobby Lobby and an image I traced off of Google Images for reindeer feed. First, I flipped the bag over so that I could use the back since it was blank. I tried to make sure all the edges were even and that it was as flat and smooth as possible. Next, I took one of the large flat canvases from Dollar Tree and turned it so that it would fit down inside the burlap bag. And then I taped the image onto it so that it would be easier to draw onto the bag. You can use anything solid that you have on hand, such as a book or piece of thick cardboard. This is just temporary so that there is a solid surface under the bag while the image is being drawn or painted on. Once I had the image taped onto the canvas, I placed it inside the burlap bag and got it as close to centered as I could. I know it's a little hard to see on camera, but you should be able to see the image through the burlap when you pull it tight so that it can easily be painted or drawn on with markers. With the image in place, I took some folk art chalk paint in the color Rich Black and some small detailed paintbrushes and painted the image onto the bag. I'm going to show you how it turned out in just a second, but I ended up making 2 of these, and for the other one I used black permanent markers to draw on the image, and I think the markers look much better and it took a lot less time for me to draw on the image using the markers. Here's what the bag painted with chalk paint looked like once it was finished. It turned out cute, but I wasn't thrilled with the reindeer. I had a few issues with it and the snowflakes. That's why on the other bag I decided to try the markers. And here's how the other bag using markers turned out. I'm so much happier with the way this one looks, and the markers gave it more of a stamped look that I was going for. I used a thicker tip black marker for the letters and numbers and a fine tip black marker for the reindeer and snowflakes. Once the image was on the bag, I took some polyfill I had left over from a previous project and stuffed it inside the bag so that it would look like it was full of reindeer feed. I did make sure to take small handfuls of the polyfill and fluff it up just a bit before I put it inside the bag so that it would look more full and fluffy. I filled the bag completely up and made sure to get the polyfill in the bottom corners so that it could stand up on its own. If you don't have any polyfill laying around, you could use an old pillow, some throw blankets, or even newspaper or plastic bags to fill the bag up. I wanted the feed sack to light up, so I used some warm white LED battery operated lights. I turned the lights on so that I was able to see how they were going to look inside the feed sack and place them in front of the polyfill. I wasn't too concerned with how they were laying. I just wanted to make sure the feed sack would be evenly lit up once all the lights were in place. When I had all the lights in place, I put the battery pack in the top of the feed sack and pulled the drawstrings closed. For a little added decoration, I used 2 berry picks that I picked up for 98 cents each at Walmart. I did go ahead and remove the pine cones from these picks because they looked pretty sad. I then placed the 2 picks at the very top of the feed sack. I did not want to glue them down because I may want to do something different a little later on, and I wanted to still be able to open the sack so I could change the batteries if I need to. So I took the drawstrings that were already on top of the sack and wrapped them around the picks and tied a knot. This holds the picks in place securely but allows me to remove them anytime I need or want to. Once I had the picks tied in place, I fluffed up the greenery and then cut off the excess stems, and this project was done. I absolutely love how this project turned out. It's simple, but I think it's gorgeous. I also love the fact that it's reversible with the word peace on the other side. I really do love how this one looks during the day as well as when the lights are turned on at night. It really has a lovely warm glow to it. I will be putting this one under my Christmas tree once I get it put up in a couple of days. Now for the special announcement. This video is part of Santaslilreindeerhop. That means that 10 other amazingly talented creators and I have teamed up to help spread some Christmas DIY cheer by giving away $110 US paid via PayPal to one lucky viewer. To enter this giveaway, all you have to do is hop along and watch each of the 11 creators' videos, and at the end of each video, leave a comment in the comments section and listen for each creator's secret code name. Please do not leave this secret code name in the comments section of the video, that way everyone can play along. Once you have gathered all 11 secret code names, send an email with the secret code names along with the channel names to CraftyLeenyHop@gmail.com. This giveaway closes on Friday, December 10th, 2021 at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the winner will be randomly picked from all qualified entries on Saturday, December 11th. Remember, you can only win if you leave a comment on each video and send an email with their secret code names. Again, please do not leave the secret code names in the comments section. The winner will be announced Monday, December 13th in our community tabs. I will leave all this information along with the link to the next video in the description box below. Be listening for my secret code name. It'll be coming up in just a little while. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss a new upload. With all that said, let's go ahead and move on to DIY number 2. For this project, I used a shadow box from Hobby Lobby. You can also use one of the piggy bank boxes from Dollar Tree for this project as well. I started by removing the back of the shadow box. To stain the shadow box, I used Rust-Oleum stain plus polyurethane in the color Kona that I picked up at Walmart and a foam brush. I stained the entire shadow box inside and out with one coat of the Kona stain. I did not wipe off any of the stain with anything except the foam brush. Here's how the shadow box looked once it was completely stained. You can see here that I did decide to use some wide painter's tape to protect the glass from the stain. I went ahead and removed the tape from the glass while the stain was still a little bit wet. I wiped away any stain that had managed to get under the tape so that it would not stain the glass. If there was a spot that had already dried on the glass, I used some rubbing alcohol and it came right off. Since I put lights inside the shadow box, I took a drill with a small drill bit and drilled a hole in the bottom corner in the back of the box so that I could feed the lights into the shadow box. To cover the back of the box that you will see from the inside, I used a blue textured piece of scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. I traced the back of the box onto the scrapbook paper and cut it out. After I had the piece of scrapbook paper cut to size, I applied a generous layer of Mod Podge to the inside of the back of the box and then applied the scrapbook paper. I did not try to smooth out any of the wrinkles, I just smoothed out around the edges so that the scrapbook paper was properly adhered to the back of the box. Once I had the paper put in place, I flipped it over and took a tool with a sharp tip and poked a hole through the paper where I had pre-drilled the hole for the lights. Since I wanted the back of the box to look like a winter night sky, I took some Waverly chalk paint in white and a coarse paintbrush and made some stars or snow, whichever one you prefer. I put some of the white paint on the paintbrush and used my finger to flick the paint onto the scrapbook paper to create the illusion of either stars shining or snow falling. I continued to add white paint specks until I was happy with the way the night sky looked. This is kind of messy, so be sure to protect your workspace. I cleaned the glass on the shadow box with some rubbing alcohol, making sure to remove any smudges or fingerprints so that I could apply a vinyl decal. After I had the glass clean and it was dry, I took a vinyl decal that I had purchased from Etsy and cut out on my Cricut machine and applied it to the front of the glass. I absolutely fell in love with this decal as soon as I saw it, and I knew that it would be perfect for this project. To decorate the inside of the shadow box, I used some fine snow that I got on sale for 50% off at Hobby Lobby, but you can get fake snow just about anywhere. I flipped the shadow box over and added a little bit of the snow. To make the shadow box light up, I used 1 pack of LED fairy lights from Dollar Tree. I put the string lights through the hole in the back piece of the box and pulled all the lights through so that it was all on the inside of the box. And then I used a little bit of hot glue to secure the end of the light string on the back of the box so that the light string wouldn't pull out easily. Next, I turned on the lights and started attaching them to the scrapbook paper with little dabs of hot glue. There was no rhyme or reason to how I placed the lights. I just placed them where I thought they would look best behind the snow to illuminate the shadow box. I made sure not to put any of the lights any higher than the snow because I wanted the wires and the lights to be hidden by the snow. Once I had all the lights glued into place, I replaced the back of the shadow box with the lights at the bottom and secured it in place with the tabs. To finish up this project, I hot glued the battery pack for the lights on the back of the shadow box. I made sure to leave the side where I could easily change the batteries showing, and then I also tacked down the loose wires so they would not show. I made sure not to glue around the edge of the back of the shadow box so that it could be removed if needed. This one was quick and easy to make, and I'm super proud of this project. I think it's so pretty during the day and even more so lit up at night. Let's get started with DIY number 3. For this project, I started with a 16 by 20 canvas that I picked up in a 5-pack at Hobby Lobby. I removed the canvas material from the frame by cutting along the outside edge of the staples with the utility knife and then pulling the material off the frame. I went back and removed all scraps of material that was left on the back of the frame along with any loose staples. I did not worry about any of the other staples that were not loose. I just left them in the back of the frame. They will not be seen once this project is completed. Then I used the same Kona stain from the last project and stained the front and sides of the frame using a foam brush. Once the frame was dry, I took a piece of black ready foam board from Dollar Tree and traced along the outside of the frame so that I could get the perfect size piece of foam board to fit the frame. I then used a utility knife to cut it out. After I had the piece of foam board cut out, I set the frame back on top, making sure all the edges were lined up nice and even. Then this time I traced around the inside of the frame so that I would know the area of where the image needed to be on the board. Next, I took an image that I had traced onto some printer paper from Google Images, just like I had done in the first project, and taped it onto the foam board, getting it as close to centered as I could in the area that I had traced out. Once the image was taped onto the board, I used a pen with a sharp tip on it to trace around the image and transfer it onto the board. I did not have to use much pressure at all for the pen to make an indentation in the foam board so that it was easy to see so that I could paint it. Here's how the image looked once it was transferred onto the foam board. I did end up going in and adding a few more stars at the bottom because I felt like it looked a little plain. I used a white oil-based Sharpie paint marker and traced back over the indentations in the foam board. I wanted this to look like it was written with chalk on a chalkboard, so I only went over the image 2 to 3 times until I was happy with how it looked. Here's how the image looked once I went over it a couple of times with a white paint marker. I decided that Rudolph needed a red nose, so I took a red Sharpie marker and colored in the nose of the first reindeer pulling Santa's sleigh. I used a generous amount of hot glue around the edges of the foam board and then placed the canvas frame on top, making sure all the edges were lined up. You could use a stronger adhesive here, but I found that Gorilla Hot Glue really holds the foam board and the wood frame together with no issues. I wanted a few of the stars to light up, so I used some warm white, almost gold lights that I had in my stash. I decided which stars I wanted to light up, and then I took a tool with a sharp tip and made a hole in each of the stars that I was going to put a light in. I made sure the hole was just big enough for the top of the light to stick through without the whole light hanging out. I used some tape to hold the lights into place just long enough for me to get the rest of the lights put in the sign. Then I went back in with some hot glue and put a bead of glue around the back of the lights to secure them in the holes and to the back of the foam board. I repeated these steps until I had all the lights in the stars. To finish up this project, I hot glued the battery pack for the lights on the back of the sign and secured any loose wires. Y'all, this one is probably my favorite out of all of today's projects. I absolutely love how this one turned out, and for some reason it really speaks to me. Let's go ahead and get started with DIY number 4. For this project, I used a red and white Christmas doorknob hanger from Dollar Tree, the large skeleton key from a 2-pack from Hobby Lobby, and a wooden tag also from Hobby Lobby. First, I started by putting the skeleton key onto the door hanger. I used the key ring that came with the keys to do this. Next, I stained the front and back of the wooden tag using the Kona stain and a foam brush. Hey y'all, my secret code name to enter the giveaway is my favorite reindeer, Prancer. Again, please do not leave this in the comments section. Collect all 11 code names and email them to kraftyleenyhop@gmail.com. Be sure to leave me a comment below. It can be anything except for my code name. If you want, you can tell me your favorite cookie or just anything else, but to be entered to win, you have to leave a comment and email all 11 code names to kraftyleenyhop@gmail.com. All that info is in the description box below if you want to take a look at it, and good luck. Once the wood tag was completely dry, I took a vinyl decal I made in Cricut Design Space that says Santa's Magic Key and put it on the wood tag. If you don't have a vinyl cutting machine, you could use stickers or freehand the tag. This step is completely optional, but I wanted this key to look old and well loved. So I took some apple barrel paint and burnt umber and a coarse paintbrush and dry brushed some of the paint onto the bells, the white and red thread around the ring, and across the white vinyl on the wood tag just to make it look a little more aged. Here's what everything looked like once I had it distressed a little with the burnt umber paint. Then to finish this project, I put the wood tag onto the key ring, and that's it for this one. It was so quick and easy to do, but I love it. I'm absolutely thrilled with how this Santa's Magic Key turned out, and to be honest, I'm kind of sad at the same time. I wish I'd had one of these keys when my son was younger. We never had a chimney, and this would have been perfect to leave out on the doorknob on Christmas Eve and make it that much more magical. Last but not least, DIY number 5. For this project, I used a 12 by 12 wood round from Hobby Lobby that I picked up during one of their unfinished wood sales. I love their wood pieces, but I don't always love the prices, so I make sure to stock up during sales. I went ahead and stained this entire wood round using the same Kona stain and a foam brush that I've been using this entire video. Honestly, this may be my new favorite stain. Once the wood round was completely dry, I took another image I had traced off of Google Images onto printer paper, but this time I taped it onto a piece of carbon paper so that I could transfer it onto the wood. This is by far my most favorite way to transfer images without a vinyl cutting machine. I centered the image onto the wood round and taped it down. Then I took a pen with a sharp tip and traced the image so that the carbon paper would transfer it onto the wood. I did not use a lot of pressure on the pen, just a little bit more than what I would if I was writing normally. Here's what it looked like once I had the image transferred onto the wood. Next, I took a fine-tipped oil-based white Sharpie paint marker and traced over the image and filled in all the areas that needed to be painted white. I gave everything 2 coats using the white Sharpie paint marker. You can also do this with a paintbrush and paint if you don't have a paint marker on hand. Here's what the tray looked like once it was completely painted and dry. To finish up this project, once the paint was completely dry on the tray, I took it outside and gave it a couple coats of Mod Podge Gloss Clear Acrylic Sealer. That's it for this one. It was really simple and fairly quick to make. You could use vinyl if you have a cutting machine or make it like I did. I absolutely love how it came out. Again, this is another piece that I would have loved to have when my son was younger. Here's how the tray looks with the milk, cookies, and reindeer treats. If you make this tray like I did, please do not put food and drinks directly onto the tray. Make sure they are on a plate, napkin, or something else so they don't come into contact with the wood or the paint. Here's one final look at all of today's Santa and reindeer inspired projects. I'm absolutely thrilled and in love with how every one of these projects turned out. They were so fun to make and definitely makes me miss my little one being little. I hope y'all really enjoyed them, and if you did, please let me know which project was your favorite in the comments below and give this video a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. Also, please don't forget to enter the giveaway and hop on over to the next creator for the next secret code name. I've left her link in the description box below. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I would love it if you would consider clicking that button and sticking around. I have so many more fun ideas for this holiday season. I'll see y'all next time.